Dear reader, I'm Tony and this is Book Text, and today we're going to talk about Jane Austen's vocabulary. But first, our word of the day, as is right when talking about Jane Austen's words, is one that she has used many times. It is the word repine. Repine, maybe better pronunciation. It is a verb. To repine is to express discontent. So it's to complain. I like it much better than the modern word to whine. That's a little bit boring now. Let's repine about more things. What do you like to repine about? So I did a lot of research for today's video, and I'm going to list links to all of my sources in the description box below. So if you want to read more about anything we're talking about today, look there. First, I wanted to go over a 2017 New York Times article written by Kathleen A. Flynn and Josh Katz, in which they analyzed Jane Austen's vocabulary, looking at what set her apart from her contemporaries. In particular, what made her so much a fan favorite 200 years later. She has lasted longer than many other 19th century British writers, especially. So they looked at her word usage, and they found that compared to her contemporaries, she used more words associated with emotions and words associated with time. And they analyzed the kind of context of these words and found that they showed a focus, a laser focus even, on human nature. Now, all literature is basically about human nature, but some books, some writing has kind of fantastical drippings, that they have other elements that maybe give some flair to human nature, to the story about human nature. But Jane Austen has this focus, as shown by her word usage. And they suggested that maybe her focus on human nature and the reality, the kind of realness of it, is what makes her so popular and has made her so popular for so long. So I thought it was an interesting conclusion. They also found that she uses more intensifiers, words like very, much, so much, and that this is connected to her penchant for irony, that the characters in dialogue use more intensifiers because they're trying to insist that things are a certain way or that they feel certain emotions. And in insisting so heavily, and there's an intensifier, so heavily, they are actually diminishing the impact of what they're saying. So they're kind of overcompensating by using intensifiers. And to me, that speaks as well to her focus on human nature, that Austen knew that people don't always speak the truth, or even that they don't mean what they say. So if you want to read more about that article, it had some other conclusions in there that I thought interesting, but I loved that her vocabulary shows her focus on human nature. There's so much that you can discover when you look at the wording of someone's writing. So that was my favorite of my findings today. I also looked at some specific words that she has used and their actual definitions, and I found 5 words that I want to use more often in my modern language. They've kind of lost their way because we have found maybe easier words, better words, more popular words to describe these things. But let's bring back some of the Jane Austen vocabulary. So I have 5 words that are my top 5 Austen words. The first word is perturbation. Now, this is not a totally new word to us, right? None of these are quite new. But the actual definition of perturbation is what it's describing when a celestial body is disturbed from its position, from its influence by other celestial bodies. So when her characters are talking about being perturbed about something. They're talking about astronomy. They're talking about the alignment and the positioning of the stars and the planets and maybe meteors and asteroids, who knows. But I thought that was really interesting that I had no clue it had a connection to astronomy. Word number 2 is counterpoise. And this is simply referring to an equal or opposing force. I teach a lot of writing classes, I teach rhetoric classes, and we talk about counter arguments a lot in rhetoric. I think that's the same idea, that we have this older term, counterpoise, and poise is definitely related to the word position, where people are taking up an equal or opposing position to ours. And I like the sound. It has some softer letters, P-S, counterpoise. Sounds a lot smoother than counter-argument. I want to use that more often, but I have to make sure that people understand exactly what I mean. So I probably won't use it with my students, but maybe with my like-minded friends, a counterpoise. Word number 3, superannuated. Superannuated. You can kind of break down the word. You can see super kind of means a lot or more than, and then annua is obviously comes from annual or anno. It's the word for year. So this is a lot of years, superannuated, and it means retired due to age. But it's such a cool word for people who are retired due to age. It sounds a lot better than maybe even senior citizen. So, I hopefully by the time I am superannuated, I will come to accept the powerful term superannuated. Word number 4 is upbraid. Upbraid, which is, of course, to find fault with or reproach severely. So almost like to chastise, to nag maybe. I like this word. I'm going to use it more often. Maybe when I upbraid my students or when I upbraid my cat for pooping on the floor. I mean, there's lots of ways, circumstances when I might need to upbraid someone. So I'm going to use that word more often. And number 5 is COZE. A COZE is a friendly talk. It actually comes from the French word meaning to chat. So when you're chatting with somebody, you're having a COZE. Isn't that such a cute word? It's a quaint, and it sounds like cozy, and it very much has similar connotations in my mind. So I hope you have a good COZE with someone this week. Those are my top 5 Austen words. I hope you learned something that maybe incited you to go do some more research on Jane Austen's wording, her vocabulary, her diction. She was such a master of the English language. And I think we should appreciate that as we are reading her books this Jane Austen July. Remember, there's always another book.